Facebook there from Charles. It's it's the inspiration you can draw from the people as well. I get those daily motivations just reading them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me just copy this URL into various places so people know how to get in touch. And let me just briefly zoom this window larger. Chat amongst yourselves for a moment or two.
I got to put my suit on as well. I was just saying earlier, we were just running through the slides, and I was like, it's for the London audience. I think we were meant to catch up, David, when we were in London a couple of years ago, but I think just we missed the timing. You were outside the city at the time.
Unfortunate, yes. So I've never been to Australia, sadly. I've been quite a few countries now, quite a large number, but Australia is one that I'm saving up for a longer session.
That'd be awesome, David. Yeah, we'll give you the tour. Look forward to going to South Africa as well, Charles. One of the Singularity U South Africa guys wanted to do they've been wanting to do a live in-person show for so long now. It's just waiting to happen.
Maybe 2023.
Exactly. But you guys must just try to visit South Africa. It's a beautiful country, it's really beautiful here. Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, but Cape Town is literally just the most beautiful in the country.
It's another place I'm also saving up. The nearest I've been is Kenya, which was quite an experience.
Yeah.
But South Africa is calling me too. I can feel it. Once we're traveling again, and once I'm confident to move around more. Let me press the button to start letting some of the audience in now. Where's that button? Start webinar. So a few people will start rolling into chat. Usually people will turn up at the very last minute or 10 minutes late. So that's starting now.
We've got a couple of Aussies that might be willing to stay up as well on the Saturday. Brendan might be coming along.
Not showing up yet, so we'll see people soon, and we'll have a good chat ourselves in any case.
Yeah, exactly.
So the lockdown's getting worse again in your part of Australia, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, we've been in lockdown for coming up to 3 months now. So we're just waiting to get our vaccination rates up. I know that the UK is probably about 80%, so we're aiming to do that as well. And I've heard like everything in the UK is just pretty much back to normal. Is that right, David?
Well, the rates of infections are quite high, sadly. And although most people aren't affected so badly, there is still some percentage of people who are. So the number of deaths is still more than 100 most days. So, and we waiting to see what happens when children go back to school, because when children go back to school, especially when they're unvaccinated, there's likely to be some more spread, and the vaccination wears off gradually. Yeah, so we're in this together, and we'll be in this for a while probably. So welcome, Hamid. Anybody else who's joined, feel free to announce yourself on the chat. You can send your message to everyone, and let's wait a few more minutes to pick up some more attendees. I can see from my Zoom registration console there are several people working their way through the registration system at this very minute. We'll just give them a few more minutes to start off.
Okay.
And this was done at the last minute, of course, this event. Usually there's at least 2 weeks, but I thought we would seize the day. That's the phrase, isn't it? Carpe diem.
Yeah.
Since,
Carpe diem, indeed.
There was a slot. There was a slot in the diary.
That's awesome. And this sort of stuff changes every single day. You know, what's been launched by Charles and the team, you know, from a couple of weeks ago. It's just so much has happened. in crypto on a daily basis. So yeah, it's definitely good to get it in contemporaneously.
Right. I haven't been keeping an eye on the price. I looked at the chart once or twice, so maybe you will bring people up to date with
We can
that
bring it up. Yeah,
when
up to
needed.
about 2.5 million now. Just insane.
Well, let's see. And so, Hamid, to answer your question, there will be a chance at the very end, if you stay around, we're going to promote everybody at the very end who wants to stay into full-blown participants. So if you haven't had a chance to ask your question before that and you've still got comments, then we'll move into this informal mode then. So that's one way in which we'll do voice questions. It depends. I'll play it by ear, depending on how the conversation goes and how things shape out. Let's keep an eye on the YouTube channel as well. So that's broadcasting fine, with not many people watching it yet, but hopefully that's going to ramp up in the next few minutes. Let's come back in here.
Alexandra, Hamid, PNJ, and Roman.
Share the link on my
page,
and that would drive traffic up. I'm just going to share the link now.
Did
oh
you
yeah,
find
it's the
it?
YouTube live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find that on there? I will copy that again.
Okay.
Into here, in case any of you don't know what that live channel is. Vincent van den Broek, I would guess that's from South Africa, maybe I'm wrong, is watching on YouTube, and that participation number is going up there. Roman has joined us as well, as has David McMaster, Alexandria, and PNJ. We will start just after another couple of minutes. I will say a few words and we'll get going properly. Let's see who else is registering here. Very good. And I need to keep an eye on a couple of channels. Usually at this point of the meeting, I get people saying, hey, how do you join? Or they've lost the link. It's not even, people seem to be managing by themselves for the time being. Right, and coming along, welcome to Anton Kulaga. I'm not sure many of the participants are in London, maybe a few. This is the international mode of London Futurists.
That's great news.
No, we have changed completely in the course of being locked down. Let me,
the global community.
Let me press the record button. So there's a good recording made. Actually, I need to check one more thing. I need to check that I've cleaned a prepared space in the record in my Zoom settings. So I only get certain amount of space. Yes, I need to delete this previous recording. Otherwise, it might complain and stop the recording. Okay, that's done. And let's start the recording properly. Record to decline. Recording in progress. And I'll kick things off. Welcome, everyone. My name is David Wood, and I chair London Futurists. Our topic today is cryptocurrencies for profound good, ? And we'll be looking at the particular case of the recently launched Transhuman Coin. There's a lot of debate and even controversy over the subjects of cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and decentralized autonomous organizations. Supporters of these concepts see them as a significant stepping stone to a better future. Critics point to what they see as examples of hype, irrational exuberance, get-rich-quick Ponzi schemes, wasteful use of natural resources by energy-intensive crypto mining operations, and the way in which some people have lost considerable sums of money from their ill-advised crypto investments or storing their crypto assets in an unwise way. But it's no surprise that a set of truly disruptive new technologies gives rise to considerable confusion and misunderstanding in their relatively early days. To help sort out some of that confusion and misunderstanding, today we are joined by three of the leadership team of the recently launched Transhuman Coin. Peter Xing and Elise Su, who are connecting from Sydney, where it's already 11 p.m. at night, and Charles Awuzie, who is connecting from Johannesburg, where it's the more civilized time of 3 p.m. in the afternoon. They'll each introduce themselves in a moment, briefly, before we get down to a deeper investigation of how to design, structure, and operate a cryptocurrency so that profound good is likely to result. So let's throw the floor briefly to Charles.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Charles Awuzie, and I'm resident in South Africa. I'm part of the developer team of the Transhuman Coin. I am a biochemist by training, a cybersecurity expert by profession, and I'm CEO and CTO of Gamesburg Group in South Africa. It's good to have you all today. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Charles. Let's move to Elise. You can say a few words about yourself before we move more deeply.
Thanks, David. Hey, everyone. Like David said, it is 11 p.m. here on a Saturday night, but this is my idea of a Saturday night, actually, talking about tech. This is exactly what I love. So I am a software engineer at Palo IT. I am also on the board of Singularity U Australia, and also for the Lifeboat Foundation as well. And also I do other things like run a community called Transhumanism Australia. So we invest and educate in science and technology to extend our healthy life, or even just to just look at what emerging technologies that can help us, I guess, go beyond the limitations of our human biology. So I recently just joined the dev team of Transhuman Coin, but I was just really excited about the philosophy and what the team wanted to achieve. So I was ready to jump on board.
Well, it's great that you're here. And I look forward to hearing your comments and responses to some of the questions later on. And the third member of the panel today is Peter Xing. Peter, over to you.
Thanks, David. As Elise said, thanks for letting us nerd out on a Saturday night over here in Sydney. My day job is in technology data innovation at KPMG. I'm part of the faculty at Singularity University on transhumanism and emerging tech. And also I'm part of the executive at Science Party in Australia. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be part of here today. Thank you, David, for giving us the audience. I recently joined the management team at Transhuman Coin because I finally found something that I can actually drive this movement through a financial incentive, but also something that we can actually make donations today to all the things that Elise mentioned, whether it's increasing our healthy human lifespan, enhancing our intelligence, and also our well-being beyond the human condition limitations.
Great. Well, maybe we could talk about some of these other topics as well in the Q&A in due course, such as the Science Party, which sounds fascinating. But why don't you run through some presentation on the Transhuman Coin, bringing us all bang up to date.
Okay. Let me know you guys can see it.
We can see it.
Great. So yeah, thanks for giving us the audience again, David. And I'm just going to go through what are the topics we'll be covering today. What is Transhuman Coin? How does it grow the transhumanism movement? How will the coin grow itself as part of the community? And continue to go on about the supporting team members that will be accumulating as well, that'll be joining the management team. How do we buy the Transhuman Coin, and also the upcoming milestones of this coin as well. So in its simplest form, if we remember how Bitcoin began, it has now become a digital gold, and essentially as a store of value, Bitcoin has become the go-to in terms of decentralizing money itself. We see that companies now are accumulating Bitcoin on their balance sheet as a store of value. And we're seeing that this is also being built upon on layer 2 technologies like Lightning to become a payment system. So it is the original gangster of the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin. What we've added as well is from Ethereum and the upcoming Ethereum 2.0, essentially enabling smart contracts. So we'll go into the tokenomics of Transhuman Coin in a second, but really bringing on that evolution from what Bitcoin was taking in Ethereum and as it goes to the staking mechanism in the Ethereum 2.0. And thirdly, there's Dogecoin. What started out as a joke, essentially a meme of Shiba Inu. This has actually gained support, with the likes of Elon Musk supporting this movement and actually turning that into a payment system with Vitalik Buterin, who founded Ethereum as well, now on the board to essentially drive Dogecoin. And so we think that the mnemonic value of cryptocurrencies to have that community and actually drive that as a cryptocurrency and its adoption also brings value. And fourthly, obviously, it's going to be transhumanism as a movement. Now, I know transhumanism has been very disparate in lots of different segregations, whether it's scientific transhumanism or you got, singularity networks and things like that. There is still lacking a single financial metric that we can actually get behind in the form of a cryptocurrency for transhumanism, something that's dedicated to the transhuman movement. And this is where Transhuman Coin begins. So THC is the official coin token, but we'll get into that as well. I hand it over to Charles just to give an overview of his journey on how Transhuman Coin began and what it is as well and how it works.
So thank you, Peter. First of all, we are first transhumanists, and a good friend of mine shared the idea with me, Jenny, and she was like, look, Charles, what if we start a project, a crypto project, that will donate to the movement and donate to charity at the same time, while funding research and helping the average investor to grow their investment. And I was like, that's smart. That's really smart. And that was how I came on board, But like I said to you, Peter, I did not make it public, until I was sure that the liquidity pool was locked, and all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed and everything was safe and good to go. And as a cybersecurity expert, and then to make sure that we are rug pull proof, and what I mean by that is that we have done our homework to avoid investors losing their investments. I'm a very popular figure in Africa, and I wouldn't want anything to jeopardize my integrity. So once I got all that sorted out, I went public with my passion for the Transhuman Coin, and glad enough, we formed a great team, Peter, Zing, Alice, Sue, myself, Jenny, and the new moderators on the Telegram group, we formed a great team, and we got the project going, and right now we are at about $2.4 million market cap, and that's a great leap so far. So thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. And thank you for also working with Jenny to getting Elise and I on board. We too also were a bit reluctant at, with a cryptocurrency at the start. But after that call with yourself and Jenny and understanding the tokenomics and seeing the wallets on the blockchain, that's what really gave us confidence to get behind it and put our faces to it too. And you can see here, let me just see if I can hide this bit here. Yep, there we go. Let me just this one. The tokenomics essentially is total supply of 7 billion. So similar how Bitcoin has a maximum number of supply, this is also the maximum number of coins that will be issued in total. And, if you think about 7 billion, the goal is to have every single person on the planet to become a supporter of transhumanism. And that's where that number is sort of trying to get to. We want everyone to be a holder of Transhuman Coin. And the way the tokenomics works is that 2% of the transactions are essentially goes to that liquidity pool that Charles mentioned. So that's a locked pool of liquidity so that you can get in and out of Transhuman Coin if you wish to. So that allows that continual transfer so that people don't have to be worried that there won't be any liquidity to get in and out of the coin. 2% goes to the existing holders. This means that the longer you hold, the more you'll be rewarded. And so this way it sort of incentivizes long-term holding and ensures that no one tries to, try to do the transactions too quickly to take advantage of volatility. So we want to make sure that we can reward the holders, but also prevent the sort of speculative trading on this coin as well. And ultimately, the whole point of having this as well in the transactions of 2% going to a donation wallet for Transhuman Coin. And we're already making contact with the logos here we've seen below with Messler Foundation, with Lifespan.io, Buck Institute, and Garvin Institute. We're looking to make our first donations with the transaction of these in the Transhuman wallet. We know that cryptocurrencies is starting to make some traction. We've already saw your talk earlier with Aubrey de Grey, and essentially, David, you're talking about how the Pulse chain essentially created the airdrops through the donations to Sound Foundation, and what that traction got to was over $25 million in donations to the Sense Foundation. Now, Lifespan.io is working with VitaDAO as well. So this is a decentralized autonomous organization that is funding early stage longevity research, and they're using a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, to enforce that. I think that's a great initiative, but we're still missing that dedicated token for the transhumanism movement. There is the super intelligence component, the super well-being component, and the longevity itself. In its simplest form, this transhuman coin can just be hodled to essentially be that value generated throughout time as well. And with Methuselah Foundation, Dogelon Mars, they are now the stewards of Dogelon Mars, which essentially started off as the main coin, a fork of Dogecoin. But then they actually issued half of that to Vitalik, and Vitalik Buterin decided to donate that to Methuselah Foundation. And so rather than thinking that those coins were burned, it became a charity token by default when half of it was actually donated to Methuselah Foundation. And now they're actually a steward of that coin, but it's not a dedicated transhumanism movement, and it never began to be. So this is something that we want to actually create, and the tokenomics to actually incentivize to happen. And yeah, so on this, we'll hand it over to Charles to talk about some of the things.
Before we move on, I just wanted to answer some of the questions in the chat. So Didier, you mentioned if there was any contact with Humanity Plus or other transhumanist organizations. So we are planning on making contact with more organizations going forward. So the 4 logos that you see up on the screen, Life Extension Advocacy Foundation, and so on, those are just the ones that we have been able to make contact with, and we're just looking at how we can work with them at the first instance. But then going forward, we do want to make contact with as many transhumanist organizations as possible. Also, Alexandria, you also mentioned if we would consider funding transhumanist advocacy groups. Certainly that's something that we'll look into as well. So pretty much anything that fits under the transhumanist banner where they're doing something for good, and also especially if they're not-for-profit or charity organization, they're definitely they would qualify for our dispersal of transhuman coin. So also I should mention that it's actually going to be community driven, especially by the largest token holders of THC.
Thanks so much, Elise. Yeah, and we're just getting started. So yeah, we're already starting to make those initial donations. Advocacy groups like Transhumanism Australia is a holder of Transhuman Coin. So yeah, definitely we'll be looking out for other advocacy groups like Humanity Plus and others as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And this is the forum for us to actually do our outreach. We've only just started to do this marketing campaign. So yeah, it'd be great to actually be in contact to get those donations going. Yeah, over to you, Charles. on some of the things that's already made an impact?
Okay. On the tokenomics, oh, great. On the donation of prosthetic legs to underprivileged Africans. Now, we are not just going to be donating to established organizations, we are also going to go directly to the underprivileged people who may not have access to or to benefit from the big organizations. So we are going to take our donations directly to people like the people you see on the screen right there. We're going to get prosthetic legs across to people like that. We're going to assist children who are struggling with genetic disorders, to get good medical care, especially the underprivileged children, So we're going to make direct donations, which will be streamed live for transparency. So we're going to stream it. It will be community driven. So we got the community on our Telegram group. We have a polling system that allows the community to propose and nominate people who are underprivileged or people who deserve to be helped or assisted by the project, and the team would locate such people wherever they are and give them the right life enhancement technology that they deserve. So yes, we would be donating prosthetic legs to underprivileged Africans. We will be assisting underprivileged children who have genetic disorders or other life-threatening medical conditions to get good medical care. And we're going to be doing a lot of direct charity work. So thank you, Peter. I hope that explains it.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. And, we'll be partnering up with the best in the community, like Open Bionics. Oh, sorry, Elise.
Yeah.
That's all right. I just wanted to mention that would love to talk to Open Bionics. So if anyone has any contacts, would love them. I think it would be a really project that would be fit for this. So where it's both customized, but also lower cost compared to the normal manufacturing process.
That's right.
So this is really a slide on what's happening, in Africa's quiet cryptocurrency revolution. As Charles was mentioning to me before, countries like Nigeria, because of the centralized banking system and the corruptions and the failures that's happening, we're actually seeing a lot of African nations move to cryptocurrencies because they were a mobile first state of nations. Essentially, they've essentially moved and transcended all the current existing banking infrastructure that we have in the Western countries. And you can see here there's over 60 crypto wallets and exchanges companies in Africa, from the likes of Binance are there already, the Rokus, and got a bunch of crypto exchanges that are essentially acting as the new financial systems they've got there, because holding fiat in Africa actually is very risky, even relative to crypto at certain times. And we got Dr. Charles driving the transhumanism agenda over there. He's got over 60,000 followers there. And you can see the transhumanist Africa communities are happening. We've got contributions in Immortalist magazine. And Singularity U South Africa is also getting a lot of traction. We've had Exponential Africa last year. We've had just coming up, Igniting Africa's Future. This is Singularity U South Africa Summit online. And so, because of this sort of presence, we're actually seeing a huge drive in cryptocurrency and transhumanism adoption in Africa. And Charles, talk to some of these figures that we see here as well.
Charles, you're on mute.
Yeah, I just unmuted. Yeah, so like I said to you, Peter, before we came live, we are seeing a massive crypto revolution in Africa, especially in Nigeria, and that has to do with, unfortunately, with the collapse or seeming failure in the financial systems. So people are looking for alternatives, alternative ways to invest and transact, and there's also a need for people to send money, from one person to the other. Forex in Nigeria is crazy. It's something I don't want to experience. So with the revolution that cryptocurrency brings, so people are able to transact. They are able to transfer money from one person to the other without going through the hassle of the forex system in Nigeria, and that allows one guy to buy a product in Africa, to buy a product in somewhere in the world, without being told that we don't have enough forex, we don't have enough not enough foreign exchange for that transaction. We have that happening in Zimbabwe, in Nigeria, and other parts of Africa, and that contributes to the traction we see in cryptocurrency adoption in Africa. And now what we're doing is that we are tapping into that massive trading that is going on in Africa. That crypto trading, we created the Transhuman Coin to be able to tap into that trade and fund, and they become able to fund transhumanism as a movement, anti-aging. You talk about the longevity projects that we have our eyes on it, and like I've read in the chat just here, someone was asking if we are going to fund transhumanist, I think, advocacy groups. Yes, we like Alice explained, we are going to fund, advocacy groups of transhumanism, and that's vision. So we're tapping into that massive markets to fund transhumanism. So thank you so much, Peter. I hope that answers.
That's great. And yeah, so in terms of the value proposition of Transhuman Coin, how we essentially be growing with more holders, the view is that, I think, David, you asked me this on our Facebook exchange where, what's the point of Transhuman Coin when you've got the likes of Longevity Vision Fund or Juvenescence, which has a portfolio of these life extension companies. And we just recently saw the 8th Aging Research and Drug Discovery meeting happening, and there was just a raft of amazing developments in aging research. Well, that's the thing. Everyday investors and everyday transhumanists and the people in the communities can't invest in these private funds. I know they can if they become an accredited investor, if they're sophisticated enough to actually get into these private funds, or even in public markets, it's hard to actually get access to the US stock exchanges. So what we envision for Transhuman Coin is to be donated to the balance sheets of these organizations. And this way, the organizations can hold Transhuman Coin and still mark that up to the market value of the Transhuman Coin. So they get this, they can actually increase the value on their balance sheet, and they can actually use that to, whether it's to obtain loans, to make acquisitions, it increases the market value of those companies. At the same time, your everyday community members can drive Transhuman Coin's value by purchasing Transhuman Coin, supporting all these holders of Transhuman Coin in terms of these private organizations. And we can continue on to drive publicly listed companies like Intellia, CRISPR, and Editas, these CRISPR companies that are essentially going to change the world in the genomic revolution. And we can do this already with Moderna and Pfizer and BioNTech, with the mRNA technologies that they have that's actually, solving a lot of this issues that we're having with COVID, which is going to need booster shots as well coming up. There's publicly listed companies like Unity Biotech. We need to look at senescence research and how do we actually use Google's technology in DeepMind to drive drug discovery and protein folding, and also superintelligence. So these publicly listed companies like OpenAI and whether it's Tesla as well and Microsoft. So these are the companies that we want to hold Transhuman Coin, because we want them to actually support the transhumanist movement. And we know Elon Musk has got that sort of future vision of super intelligence. We got to get him to come around as well on the longevity side, because from his recent tweets, I've just seen that, he thinks that still with a deathless mindset, that, he needs a clock to end before he actually finds meaning in life. We need to help solve that as well, and getting him on board with the transhumanist movement on the longevity side. In terms of the currently growing management team, you've seen Dr. Charles, myself, and Elise, and we've got Jenny and the community members at Transhumanism Australia that's helping with the Telegram as well. But essentially, we're going to bring on more and more transhuman influencers, and Dr. Charles can announce those as well in the coming days. And I'll be reaching out to Australian members, for example, the Aging Decelerator that we have with Carl Walker, and all the venture capitals contacts that we have as well, and try to actually get them to fund transhuman related projects in the form of startups, get those startups to hold Transhuman Coin too. This is actually just on how to buy Transhuman Coin. So right now it's listed on PancakeSwap, which is the Binance Smart Chain. So you can swap your Binance coin for Transhuman Coin. You essentially just need to go and go to the website transhuman.finance, copy the contract address, and paste that into the import that. You'll need either a MetaMask or Trust Wallet or other hot wallet that you can connect to when you go to PancakeSwap, and that allows you to transfer. And because it's such an early project, just increase your slippage to 10%, and that allows for that liquidity to go through. In terms of our roadmap, this is where we're at. We've already completed the approval of the core developments. We've launched the public site and listed on the PancakeSwap. We've also got the white paper just recently released as well. Thanks, Charles, for getting that through. And what's happening now, Charles? We're doing the promotion campaign. We're doing the marketing campaign. It's still just in progress, just starting out. And this recently that's coming up as well, we'll be listing on the crypto exchange Coinsbit. So yeah, Charles, remind us when that's happening as well.
Yeah, we are listing on coinsbit.io on I think the 8th, which is this Wednesday, this coming Wednesday.
It's coming Wednesday.
I don't know if I was supposed to make this public, but yeah, it's out there. So we are getting listed on a major centralized exchange, on this Wednesday, so that the announcement will be made by coinsbit.io on their website and on all their platforms. I think on Tuesday or Wednesday thereabouts.
Great. So we just made an announcement on David's London Futures webinar. And so this is, this is to get around, the challenges people have. It's very tech, you need to be really tech savvy to be able to, use PancakeSwap and transfer your Binance coin into your wallet and to do that. So yeah, this will make it a lot more accessible using a centralized exchange. And then, we're targeting other exchanges one by one at a time. So in the future, we can look at Binance and Coinbase as well. But the upcoming milestones, I guess we've got essentially is to continue to make our first donations, buy back and burn weekly, just to continue to drive the adoption, listing on CoinGecko, and also coin market cap as well. So that actually brings a lot more prominence of this coin to the crypto community. And phase 4 is essentially listing more L banks and BuckSwap partnerships. It's going to be a transhuman coin lottery. And what's most exciting is going to be this Transhumanism Research Center. And this is all about, we'll get to that in a sec, but actually by 2023, we actually want to create a research center dedicated to transhumanism. And we want to form partnerships with the amazing work that's been done in the new blockchains as well as existing ones. For example, we mentioned Pulse Chain from Richard Hart's work as well recently, and also the Binance Smart Chain. Binance Smart Chain, it sacrifices decentralization for efficient energy usage. So from an ESG perspective, I think it's a lot more efficient in using energy, but we want to make sure that it is secured in the future as well for that decentralization. So Ethereum 2.0 and Cardano, with Vitalik Buterin being an avid supporter of longevity, and Chris and Charles Hoskinson, they're essentially supporting longevity as well. well. And there's also SingularityNet with Ben Goetzel, how we can actually connect in with the superintelligence side of things. And Proof of Humanity, it's an amazing initiative where they've funded a UBI coin. And that's something that you can actually validate that you are a human on the Ethereum blockchain, but also connect that to get a UBI, 1 UBI per hour. I think it's at about 5 cents at the moment, but I think it's actually really good to actually have an initiative to drive UBI right now. And yeah, so yeah, Charles, talk us more about the Transhuman Research Center.
These are our major goal. I would say a bit of a long-term goal, and that is to build, a Transhuman Research Center, we should become the hub of innovation for major transhuman projects around the world, and the location of that would be decided on by the management team and a polling by the community, using the polling system in the community. And we are hoping that by 2023, we should commence the project on the building of the Transhuman Research Center. This is going to be like a massive leap in the transhumanism movement. It's going to be a major leap, but that's the goal. That's the goal. That's the vision. That's where we're going to come 2023.
Amazing. Thanks, Charles. And yeah, thanks for listening to that presentation. You'll be able to find Transhuman Coin at transhumancoin.finance. Yeah, back to you, David, we'll open up some questions.
Well, that was very interesting. Thanks so much for setting things out so clearly and engagingly. There are questions. There are questions about how are decisions made. So maybe we'll start there. Because, you set out lots of attractive possibilities. You might put some charitable donations here, you might put some charitable donations there. But however big your budget is, there's going to have to be decisions, There's, I think, 4 sets of decisions that are up for grabs. There are, which kinds of things do you want to do? Do you want to help the blind to see? Or do you want to put money in for the lame walking, or raising the dead, or advocacy? So how do you spread your work across these different possible areas? Secondly, there's how do you decide which investments will be effective? Because there's a whole area of studying this. Effective altruism looks at this. Many different charitable donations seem to vary quite considerably in their effectiveness. Some of them of high profile, and it makes you feel good when you donate to some of these, but they may not actually have such a big impact on the world. So how do you evaluate the effectiveness of possible different donations? And then there's a political angle, because somebody may say, hey, people are starving, give them fish. Somebody else will say, no, give them fishing rods, teach them how to fish. Somebody else will say, no, come along, change the government. They've got some badly corrupt government here. You've got to force them to apply these political structures. So how do you decide where do you apply your funds along that spectrum? And finally, there's a question that Anton Kaluga has raised in chat. And how radical are you in choosing projects? Are you interested in projects on head transplantation, for example, or on inserting human brain genes into animals, or cryonics? So, who makes these decisions? And you've said, well, there's a Telegram poll, but I'm not sure I want these hard decisions being made by a random group of people on Telegram. So maybe you can talk us through how this works today and how it might work in the future.
Okay. We have a white paper which is published on our website, and on the 6th page of that white paper, we stated the process for decision making, and that starts with the top investors nominating deserving organizations for donations or reinvestments, and after that we go to the community, because we want to drive community participation, so we go to the community, and that's when we use the community polling system to decide which of the nominated, organizations we receive either donations or investments. And after that, once we have achieved that participation by our community, we go back to the top management team, and if it's donation, then we have to do, before that we have done our research on the eligibility, are they honest, are they a transparent organization, and are they deserving of this donation, and if we have ticked all the boxes, then we go ahead and make the donation, and that defines our decision-making process. One, it encourages community participation because the project is community-driven, and then the donations and the process of doing that will be live streamed, and that is to promote transparency. So we do it live, and if we're donating in THC, and that's a Transhuman Coin, or any cryptocurrency, the blockchain allows you to view every transaction done on the blockchain. So we just share the transaction hash, and it's viewable, it's trackable by anyone who has a smartphone. And by the way, to David Wood, thank you so much for being one of the pioneers of the smartphone revolution. A lot of people do not know in Africa that we're sitting right here with one of the men who gave us today what we call smartphones. So it's a big thumbs up to you, Mr. David Wood, for all the great work you've done to bring us to where we are in technology.
Well, that leads me to say it was hard making lots of decisions about what features to put into smartphones. We had lots of people who said, put in this feature to the next smartphone operating system. No, prioritize security. No, prioritize real-time performance. No, prioritize support for synchronization on the cloud. And it was not easy to make these decisions. And I think if we'd had some kind of democratic process, I don't think we'd have taken very good decisions. So I ask again, can you say a bit more about how will these hard decisions be made? When, for example, should particular percentage being given to Leaf? Leaf's a great, the lifespan advocacy organization. That's fantastic. Or should we give it to Buck Institute instead? You've said, I think, Charles, that the top investors will make proposals. Well, who are these top investors, and do their proposals have more weight depending on their level of holding they've got? So let's stay with this question a bit longer. How does it work in practice?
Yeah, we do have a group, we do have a club, if I should use the word, a group of top investors, and doing that is a strategy that we developed to also keep our big holders closer, because I saw a question from, I think, the chat, from the Zoom chat, and someone was asking, how do you protect the project against whales? So this is a strategy that we developed. We brought our top investors closer, and we make them stakeholders in the project. That way our whales have become a great asset to us, and not a threat to us, and that is a great smart decision by the management team. So yes, we do have a top investors club. And they do have such privileges of other nomination of which organizations that will receive a donation from the Transhuman Coin, and like you rightly said, Mr. David, you spoke about democratizing decision making. Well, in some cases, you may have to come together, and say, hey, Peter, Alice, Jenny, Charles, this is a difficult decision to make. But we are going to depend on statistics. We're going to depend on expertise. So we have someone like Peter, who is an expert in automation technology. This is your area. Please make this decision based on your expertise. You should be able to give us a very smart advice on the way forward in this area. We're going to tap into the areas of expertise of the top management team. We have biochemists, we have technologists and software developers like Alice, and when projects come, we're going to tap into their expertise in decision making. So I think Peter and Alice, you also have something to say about that question.
Yeah, no, we thought about what's happening around the decentralized autonomous organizations, and like you say, David, if we make it too democratic, you're going to get things that people don't know what they need in the future as well. You need that sort of have that vision at the management level, and we'll be essentially guided by our mission statement, which is essentially to accelerate the transhumanism movement, in the lines of super intelligence, super longevity, and super well-being. But if there's any point in time where the decisions conflict between, say, one donation for the other, which one will have a bigger impact on the overall transhumanism movement? That's essentially our goal. And how do we get 7 billion people holding Transhuman Coin? That's probably where we say mission accomplished, because we would have got everyone to support the transhumanism movement. We would have solved aging as a disease. We would have solved our limitations on connecting to super intelligence and also our overall being. So that is our guiding mission statement.
I think in cases where there is a massive societal benefit, that it is best to have more democratic decision making rather than using the example of phones. So that's probably where you can have more just a smaller group of people making a decision. But when it comes to making decisions about health and how we can advance our biology, then I think we should make it a slightly more democratic decision.
So let's stay with this question of democracy. I see there's quite a lively discussion on YouTube on exactly this point now. Maybe I misspoke earlier in saying I didn't approve of a democratic decision. That's not what I meant to say. I'm a big fan of what I call super democracy, which is doing democracy right. But that requires people understanding what they're discussing. And if you rush too quickly to a vote, you may get a bad decision. And there have been quite a few instances in the world in the last few years, and of course going further back in history too, when democratic decisions were based on an incomplete understanding. And so I do wonder, what do you envision as the way to ensure that the discussions are informed by the best insight and take account of multiple points of view, rather than being dominated by just a few perspectives, like the whales that were mentioned? And for those who don't know, maybe you can describe what a whale is. But they may have a disproportionate influence. They may spread ideas and understanding which aren't truly in line with general benefits. So I'll be interested in any of your comments on how you're going to manage this democratic process so it's not dominated by vested interests or other fake news.
Yeah, I just unmuted. Well, like I just read out from our just a minute white paper, the sixth page on our white paper. We described two decision-making processes. So it starts with the top investors, but it doesn't end with the top investors. I can describe that better with what happens with the US political system, where they have the electoral college and then they have the public voters, and in our case, we've just done the reverse, so we start with the electoral college, like the smaller group of people, and then we take it to the public, for assessment, and if the public says no, so the community functions like the parliament, they function like the parliament. If we go to them and then they say no, we don't want this, we don't buy into this idea, literally they will override the top investors, So at no point would a smaller group have more power than the bigger group. At no point would that happen in the project, because we are community driven, so we will remain community based, even in decision making,
Yeah, and it's early. We continue to iterate from a technology basis as well, and we can incorporate those sort of DAO type of features. But like Charles said, we can actually initiate those initial suggestions from the management team, then that comes to the vote from the community. So we do get that feedback loop from the community to make sure that we are making sure we're not, moving against the movement, right? We actually want to accelerate the movement itself.
Let's ask a question about the size of the money that's involved here. We've talked about how do we decide how to split up the pie, but there are questions saying, well, how big is the pie? So an anonymous attendee asks, what is the income that the THC Foundation will be collecting 6% from? how soon will you be in a state when you'll be allocating 1 million altogether, for example? So that's one. Didier Cornell, I think, asked the same question. How much money is already there in euros or dollars, and how much is ready to be dispersed into these donations soon?
First
Any
of
of you can
all,
answer. Yeah.
okay. No, first of all, we do have a wallet, and that wallet currently holds THC, and that's Transhuman Coin, And right now we haven't swapped the Transhuman Coin for BNB. We haven't sold anything, So we may not be able to give the exact value in dollars, right? We may not be able to give the exact value in dollars, but we do have a tokenomics that sends 2% of every transaction to a dedicated Transhuman project wallet. And coming back to the question of what the project is worth now, I mean, the market cap is at $2.4 million. So that describes the value of the project. So our value is capped at $2.4 million currently. And we are, foreseeing, after the listing on Wednesday, we are foreseeing a massive growth to over $10 million in the coming week or so.
Yeah. But even with $10 million, by the time you've divided that up into several projects, there's not much money to go around to each individual project, is there?
I think the goal of it is actually get those individual projects to hold Transhuman Coin. And as the value of Transhuman Coin goes up, their balance sheet values goes up as well. And so we don't, it disincentivizes the value of Transhuman Coin when they convert it back to US dollars or British pound. We're trying to convert back to fiat. If they keep it as THC and do a market valuation of their holdings, that allows them to borrow fiat against that value asset. They can also then, increase their market cap to acquire other companies and do other things with that market valuation. So that is sort of ultimately where I think we can actually drive this value. So even though the donations right now might be small, they might be, if we think about 3.5 million Transhuman Coin, might be $1,500. But as that Transhuman Coin continues to grow, that actually grows with it exponentially. So we can actually continue to drive the adoption. We're at about 2,400 holders of Transhuman Coin. And if you think about our addressable market, our total addressable market is that 7 billion population. So yeah, at least another million to go, more than that.
Roman Bauer asks, how much of the 7 billion coins is held by the leadership and development team? And more generally, can you comment on the Gini coefficient or the inequality aspect of how the holding is distributed?
Okay. The leadership holds about 20%, out of which 30% of that 20% will be burnt. What we call burning is sending the THC, which is the Transhuman Coin, to a dead address, and that is to create some sort of scarcity, which increases the value of the Transhuman Coin. So there is a wallet that holds, and that wallet is an unlisted wallet. It contains unlisted tokens, which is about 20% now because of the burning that is happening. Yesterday they burned about 5 million THC. Today they've burnt about over 4 million THC. So there is a weekly, and most times twice in a week of burning, and that is to create scarcity of the Transhuman Coin and drive up the value, And the second question, please.
Well, the second question is about the Gini coefficient. The Gini is a measure of inequality, whether the holding is spread widely or whether it's accumulated disproportionately in just a small number of holders. Okay. You probably don't have a ready value for that, but an indication would be of interest to some of the audience.
Yeah, the redistribution of the 2% to holders is actually equal, So everyone, and it doesn't matter how much you hold, everyone gets an equal share of the 2% that is being distributed or redistributed. everyone gets it. It's automatic and it's encoded in the smart contract. So it's equal. It's the same.
And in terms of the underlying holdings of, if you think about Transhuman Coin as 100% holding in total, like Charles says, 20% is currently with the team. The rest of those holdings are actually all majority under 1%. So there's probably about in the top 10 that holds the other, I think 30%, and the remaining holds under 1%. So that gives you a rough indication of how it's split at the moment. And the burning, like you say, will essentially drive down that holding of the 20%. And as we continue to make these donations as part of these leadership teams, we'll be able to drive that Gini coefficient in the positive direction as well.
And are the holdings public? People can look
and
see
these now on the Binance scan. So it's the equivalent of the Ether scan, but for Binance Smart Chain. And that's also on the website as well.
Very good. Anton Kolaga asked another questions about should there be a scientific board that will potentially veto projects that might sound interesting, might sound attractive, but actually have little scientific validity? Or do you just trust the community's decision via the processes that you've already outlined?
And this is where we want to get more scientists on board as part of the management team, and we can form that scientific advisory board. I think as part of this push, we'll be targeting scientific advisors. Right now, we've got some influencers on board, like you say, but we also need people with the right scientific knowledge. And Dr. Charles, I know you've got a few contacts there as well that you'll be reaching out to. But we're really open to suggestions around who we should bring on as part of the management team. So as part of this, please reach out and suggest some contacts. We're starting to do suggestions as well on who we can bring on as part of the management team. So with THC, we want to get them have skin in the game to make sure that they can actually hold it and actually support the movement itself.
So if there are recommendations or volunteers for these roles, how do they get in touch with you?
So Charles, do you want to go through the info at transhumancoin.com and also the Telegram that we got going right now? So you're on mute.
I missed that question, please.
That's good. Yeah, just on how do people can make suggestions for the Transhuman Coin team on scientific advisors and others. I just mentioned the email address, info at Transhuman Coin. Yeah.
Yeah, so the website is www.transhumancoin.finance. And the admin can be reached at admin@transhumancoin.finance. And we do have a Telegram group, and that is t.me/by Transhuman Coin. And we're on Twitter at Transhuman Coin, and that is www.twitter.com/Transhuman Coin. And we are also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Transhuman Coin. And these are the most, and we're on Discord, and I think Peter can tell us the Discord channel.
Yeah, and the Discord channel, we're just getting set up so we can actually form the development team, create more marketing, but also around the organizations that we want to prioritize.
The top voted question now is by Roman Bauer, who asks, how does the redistribution to holders work? Is it proportional to the amount they hold already, or do you all receive the same regardless of their current holding?
Yeah, it's equal. It's equal. It's automated, so everyone just gets the same from the 2%, and it's redistributed equally.
So what's the advantage to somebody being a larger holder?
Is that they literally have a big chunk of the cake, but the redistribution, it's the economic incentive that the project offers to holders, and not necessarily the main thing, because the main thing is what you purchase and what you've bought. When you buy a million TSC, I mean that's you're buying into 7 billion. You're buying 1 million out of the 7 billion in circulation. And what we do, or what our economics do, is that it adds 2% of every transaction, out of every transaction, on that 1 million or 2 million or 10 million that you've bought.
Okay. There's a question from an anonymous attendee to ask you, Charles. Is perceived corruption in Africa a barrier to effective charitable decisions?
Okay. Well, there is a high level of corruption in some parts of Africa, and I use the word some parts of Africa because there are some parts of Africa that are actually very developed. Like I live in South Africa, and if you've been to South Africa, it's well developed. The systems are functional, and technology, controls most of the systems. So the corruption level here is very low. So yes, in some parts of Africa, corruption seems to scare away foreign donors. But what we see in Africa now is that most African countries are no longer looking for foreign donations. They're migrating, from the donation mentality to partnership mentality, where they're saying we don't really need free things. We don't need the free things. We are looking for ways to grow our human capital, train us, So you see more countries not offering financial donations, but offering things like training, or trade, and that makes it a bit safer to contribute to the growth of the continent, but without crying for loss, because any investment you make on human capital, is a sure great investment,
Great. There are quite a few comments on YouTube as well. I'm not able to follow them all. By all means, if somebody else spots a comment on YouTube that should be fed into this Zoom discussion as a priority, let me know. I'll pick a question there from GTR Frost, who asks, will THC be on the Pulse network anytime soon? That may have been answered already, but let's ask it again.
Yeah, that's like essentially part of the roadmap where we want to build partnerships with pro-transhumanism organization blockchains like Pulse Chain. So yeah, as Richard Hart's Hex is doing so well as well recently in his CD platform. That's essentially a certificate of deposit. That's going to be merged with Pulse Chain and actually offering lower transaction fees. So right now, Binance Smart Chain offers relatively small transaction fees as well, but Pulse Chain, I think, aligning with them in the future, where we have Richard Hart, that's actually pro longevity, that makes a lot of sense as well. So yeah, definitely in the roadmap with those other partnerships with blockchain initiatives.
I'll feed in one more comment from the YouTube before I go back to the Zoom questions and answers. Rhizomatic Reality makes a very fair point. He says that there's corruption elsewhere in the world too, not just in Africa. There's certainly corruption in politics in various ways and corruption in business in various ways in parts of Europe, the UK and America. And so that's an obstacle to true progress all over the world, not just in a few countries in Africa. So I think that is a fair point. On the redistribution question, Roman pops up again asking, well, what if somebody's got multiple wallets? Does that mean they will get more redistributed to them? Don't know if that's addressed in the white paper or other considerations. Maybe not yet.
Yeah, I think we addressed that. If someone has more TSC, would they have higher distribution and the rate distribution of 2%? That's the question. We've just addressed it, and we said no. The 2% is redistributed equally.
Yeah, and the multiple wallets issue as well, like you say, David. Because the wallets currently are pseudonymous, we don't know who they are. They can create multiple wallets and buy, lots of THC, they could potentially do that. This is where initiatives like Proof of Humanity, as part of our iterations, will come in handy, because Proof of Humanity can actually identify the individual holders. That's currently on the Ethereum blockchain, but that's something we can work towards as well as part of our roadmap too. And that way we can actually prove that we're actually making a difference into unique humans and supporting the transhumanism movement, and with the 2% distributing to individual holders as well.
Thanks. Brian from Canada raises a different set of questions, which I think deserve some attention from us. He points out that there have been slightly similar sounding projects which have led to lots of people sadly losing their life savings. Tens of millions of Indian farming peasants lost their life savings of about $100 each in Bitcoin before the Indian government made cryptocurrency purchase illegal. And what protects vulnerable people from suffering from such a catastrophic loss with THC? We don't want relatively impoverished people putting huge amounts of money in and then seeing it all disappear. After all, Brian says, if we are transhumanists, it's about ethics and ending suffering. We don't want people to suffer from making what turns out to be a misguided investment in Transhuman Coin. So I don't know if you want to play with that idea between the three of you for a bit.
Yeah. That happens when you've got your Bitcoins, for example, in a centralized exchange, and the government takes over that centralized exchange and essentially effectively takes away your wallet as well. So the whole point of these cryptocurrencies and the blockchain is essentially be decentralized from the government's central banks. Right now, if you have a wallet on your or via your browser, for example, MetaMask or Trust Wallet, that can be traded on decentralized exchanges like PancakeSwap. And so that way, actually, as long as you don't lose your passwords, your private keys, you can actually keep that away from being taken away by the governments itself. So the risk is, if you keep it in a centralized exchange, there's always that overarching risk that the governments take over it. So we would recommend, if you do use a centralized exchange, for example, when we list on Coinbit, you transfer it to a wallet that you can then protect against that centralized exchange going down.
But I think Brian's question is a bit more than that. It's not just that the governments might intervene and take away or prevent people from continuing to use cryptocurrency. The government intervened because they thought many farmers would be defrauded of money or disappointed because they were investing in various ways which would then almost certainly fail. So how can you be sure that people who invest in Transhuman Coin with a great vision for the future will not in a year or two's time be saying, gosh, I put all my life savings into this, expecting the sky, and I've got nothing out of it. This was a very bad transhumanism indeed.
Yeah, thank you, David, for that question. And Peter rightly mentioned one aspect where people risk losing their money, and that's when governments make such policies, and that is one aspect. And like Peter suggested or recommended, that we regularly withdraw from the centralized exchange wallets into what we call cold wallets, and that way we keep our coins safe. Now the second aspect is what we call the rug pull. The rug pull. Now the rug pull is when someone, most times, anonymous guy comes up and creates a coin and says, we are doing this and we are doing that, and then they grow the coin anonymously. They have no face to it. They grow it anonymously, and it gets to a point, and they pull out the liquidity, crashing the value of the coin, and everyone who had invested in that project then goes on crying. That's what we call rug pull. And one of the technologies that we use to prevent rug pull is what we call the liquidity lock, right? We call it the liquidity lock. And we do have 100% liquidity lock on the Transhuman Coin project. Is locked 100%, which means that at no point will developers pull it. you know. And number two is that we have what we call a doxed team. You know, we are not anonymous. I have over 60,000 followers on on Facebook alone. I have over 6,000 followers on Facebook. You know, I've been in the public space, you know, for many years, and from when I was a child, literally, you know, I've been in public space because of my religious background, you know. And we have people like Peter and Alice, you know, who have done so much for the transhumanism project. Someone personally like me, I wouldn't be part of a project and put my face to it, you know, with everything that I've got. My family in South Africa, they are a well-respected political family. We are my mother-in-law was a member of the national parliament. You know, she was a member of the national parliament and well-respected. My family is well-respected, you know, and I wouldn't put a face to it if and as a cybersecurity expert, I hadn't done my research. So the assurance we're giving to everyone is that there will never be a time when there will be a rug pull. Never, never. You know, we're going to do our best to grow the project, you know, and we are going to make sure that we are ethical because we are looking at the long term. You know, we've always said that this is beyond just a crypto project. We are using just the blockchain technology to generate the funds that we want to use to do good in society. You know, this is beyond crypto. We are driven by an honest passion, you know, as transhumanists to do good in our generation. And a lot of people ask me, Charles, are you saying that you're going to solve death? You know, I said, no, but we may die trying to solve it. We'd rather die trying to solve it. You know, than not making attempts or contribute anything to the coming generation to find a solution to humans' greatest limitations. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. David.
Well, it is a good answer in the sense that I think it shows your integrity, it shows your honesty. But people can lose money in financial transactions, not just because they're being ripped off by somebody who's set out to deceive them. They can lose money because in the end, the scheme is somehow misguided or naive, or it thinks it's different, but it isn't. And so at this stage, I'm going to feed in a question from YouTube by Steph Kodija, Staker app, who points out, he says that since 2016, all cryptocurrencies focused on charity or research have failed. So I don't know what the data points are here. I don't know which ones you would point to, but Steph is saying, so it's not true. You say there are other.
That's not true because actually I have researched others and I may not mention their names, you know, and a lot of them have been listed by centralized exchanges and they are doing pretty well. In fact, this is a fact. What I'm about to share right now is a fact, you know. If meme coins, and these are just funny, you know, jokes that just start from, I mean, your Dogecoin, your Shiba, you know, these are mini coins, you know, and they have no real impact, you know, on humanity, you know. If they can do well and last long in the market, how much more and honest? There are many of them. I just don't want to mention names, but I can submit that, you know, to anyone who wants to know. You know, there are many charity coins, because when it comes to research coins, we may be the major coin that is dedicated to research. I haven't seen much of the research coins, but I've seen much of the charity coins. And remember, we are not just a charity coin, we are a charity and research coin, you know, and the research niche is very peculiar to the transhuman coin, you know. But the charity coins, you know, that are doing well are there is the one that, you know, gives more to orphans, and right now they've raised in just a month or so, you know, they've raised millions. Their market cap is in hundreds of millions of dollars. They are listed by major exchanges, and these were just created by two young Black varsity students, and they are doing good among orphans. You know, one of them was an orphan and experienced very crazy upbringing, and he said, I'm going to create a project that helps orphans to fund the education and do other stuff. And it's doing so well. And there are others, you know. So whoever thinks or says that charity projects, you know, should also remember that Dogecoin is not a charity project. It's a meme project, and meme projects are doing well, you know. And what makes a project work, let me say this, are the people behind it, not really, you know, first is the people behind it. You know, we have a great community, and not just that, we have great and respected individuals who are backing the Transhuman Coin, you know. And what defines the major failures of any coin? One is, most times, you see, the people behind it are not, they do not have the influence, you know, both on social media and all that, to drive traffic to their projects. You know, so they have like 100 or 200 people in their communities, and they're trying to do it 1 month, 2 months, you know, because they do not have influence. The crypto industry is driven by influence, you know, and what we have in ours is the influence. We do have influence, and a lot of influencers are behind us. You know, in just 1 month, we have grown to $0.0003 to one transhuman coin, you know, and the traction, you know, I mean, the traction and the trajectory of the project has been massive, you know, and that's because of the influence that the leaders have in their social spheres. Our Telegram group has over 3,000 people on it. You know,
well, maybe we stick with this a little bit longer, and maybe I can ask both Elise and Peter to give their views on this as well. As an investor, well, what investors want to do, they want to evaluate the caliber of the team, of course. They want to see what connections the team have got. That's a plus. But investors usually want to say, well, who else has tried this kind of thing before? Because even if a team is very talented, works hard, has got good connections, if there's a fundamental issue with the model, with the architecture, then it's going to fail. And I'm sure there have been other coins in which there was initial very exciting growth. And so the question again is, maybe in your future communications, you can say a little bit more about comparisons between previous projects. I noticed that GTR Frost refers to a previous coin called Humanic, which was a charity coin. And he says, well, it did very badly. And there may have been an exciting and encouraging start point. So I think you've got to make it clear, not just that you are great people individually, which no doubt you are, but that you've understood what the limitations of previous broadly similar coins were and how you expect to transcend these limitations with the particular approach you're bringing. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of examples. You know, we talked about Pulse Chain earlier, and that's already raised $25 million for Sense Foundation. Poor case study of what happened afterwards, but you know, at least it's demonstrating that it has able to achieve what it set out to do. There's then also Dogelon Mars. So that was essentially set out as a meme token that Charles mentioned. But now Methuselah Foundation is stewarding that token, and it's continued to actually sustain its price. I mean, that Dogelon Mars token, although it did go through that ramp up and the hype cycle, it's still maintaining that price. And Methuselah Foundation has actually kept on to say they're going to hold that for another year. So that is also initially started as a meme, but turned into a charity token for the Methuselah Foundation. What we want to do is have a dedicated coin for transhumanism from the outset. And you know, learning the lessons, you know, from the hype coins like SafeMoon. We don't want to be one of those scam tokens where all it's doing is driving, you know, with these reflection mechanisms to actually just accumulate for the holders. We want to make sure that that donation wallet accumulates so we can actually do this transfer to those transhuman organizations and have them hold on to this coin too, and increasing that balance sheet mechanism. So this is actually the first time we're actually applying it in a transhuman context, but also making sure that that holding and market valuation becomes the value of where this token goes.
Alexandria Black in the questions says that she had her own experience. She was a moderator in an Ethereum group which had high hopes for social projects, but then there was a lot of pump and dump, and the project did not live up to the expectations. I don't know the name of that. So again, the question is, how can you be sure your fine goals can't be subverted? And possibly the answer is what was raised by an anonymous attendee in a different question, which is, are you going to make your technology open source? I mean, you're doing various things there. You're encoding various processes. Is that available for people to look at and to say, well, actually, there is something different and unique here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the code is on the Binance Smart Chain, and you can read the code there, you know, on the Binance Smart Chain. So it's open on Binance Smart Chain. And secondly, with the pump and dump thing that happens in cryptocurrencies, you know, we are seeing a completely organic growth in the Transhuman Coin, you know, and we've done everything possible to ensure that we do not have the pumps, you know, the pumps. We do not allow it. We will not allow it, you know, and that is because we have a long-term vision, you know, and the pump and dump things will not happen in the project, and that's because of the character again of those who are behind it. We will not allow that, and it won't happen in our projects.
But how do you prevent yourselves? How do you prevent yourselves from being bought out or manipulated so that your fine ambitions then get subverted?
Yeah, that again goes back to and that go again goes to the individual characters. You know, if we essentially become disloyal to this coin, that ruins our reputations as well. So I think we're individually tied, and we make sure that the influencers we bring on board and the scientific advisors that we bring on board to the management team also has that. It's early days in this sort of first month of launch, but I think that's where we're essentially going to be going to as well.
So we're coming to the end of the 90-minute session. I'll give you all a chance in due course to make some concluding remarks, things that you think maybe have got lost in the discussion that you'd like to re-emphasize. I will feed in a couple of comments from various sources. Steph from Staker App says that when he looked at your website, the distribution pie chart adds up to 205%. So I don't know if that's been checked recently. He says that doesn't make the best of impressions. So I don't know if he's reading it differently from how it's intended. So I know it's early days, and maybe you could do with some more people helping out, but checking whether that adds up or not. So that's a fair point. Rebel Coda mentions somebody you've already mentioned, Peter, earlier on. He mentions Charles Hoskinson of Cardano, and he says they are focused on good works in Africa. They've started already some amazing projects. Why aren't you working more closely with them? So I think obviously you want to work with them, and it's just a matter of time. But any comments on that before I feed in a couple more questions and then let you wind up?
Yeah, big fan of Charles and his work in the Cardano community. So yeah, that's something that we want to work cross-chain. So essentially Cardano with Ethereum 2.0 and Binance Smart Chain. So this way we can interoperate between those three prominent transhumanist blockchains as well as Pulse Chain. So we want Transhuman Coin to transcend all these, I guess, silos of blockchain networks. You know, Cardano will become cross-chain as well. So that's going to be a great goal for us to tack on to.
And can you say more about your cooperation or expected cooperation with Vita DAO? That's something that Anton Kulaga is involved with. He says they have a project for their first investment. What's your relationship envisioned to be there?
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. So we're going to be working through them through lifespan.io. It's still early days. We're just still in contact with lifespan.io and with Vita DAO as well. So I know Vita DAO has got that governance framework of how to invest in these early stage, and they've got the Ocean protocol, the data marketplace that goes through and how that formulates for aging research. Ultimately, we want also to be able to integrate Transhuman Coin as that holding token to bring value rather than just the governance side of what Vita DAO is doing.
Good. So in a minute, as I say, I'll give you a chance to make concluding statements. I do want to tell people, if you are watching on Zoom, we are going to transition into a different mode, and I will give everybody who's still on the call the chance to come on camera. Now, I'm not expecting all the panelists to stay because it's very late at night in some places, but they are, of course, welcome to stay for a bit, and we might hang around in this more informal setting for 30 minutes or 40 minutes or so, just for people to make their own thoughts and what are they thinking now as a result of what they've heard. What do they wish was added into the conversation? What other angles should be laid? So that will involve everybody who's still a member of the audience being transformed. You will get a message from Zoom saying you're invited to become a panelist, and if you accept that, you will be transitioned. But we'll take a break first, by the way. We won't go straight into that, so we'll stop at about 1:30, and maybe after about 7 minutes or so, when people have recharged their coffee, had a bio break, then we'll kick that off again. But let's go around. Let's have some concluding remarks from Elise. What have you heard that you would like to respond to, and what else would you like to leave in people's minds, Elise?
Yeah, so what I love about THC is that you benefit both as a holder, but also the charities and organizations that we are donating to, they also benefit from holding as well. And so in a lot of developing countries, but also in developed countries, you don't really have that advantage where you can choose between, well, do I donate to worthy causes, or do I need to think about investing in my own future? So at the same time, you can actually do both using THC.
Wonderful. Charles, concluding remarks from you?
Yeah. Cryptocurrency is the future, but beyond that, transhumanism is the future. So when we merge crypto and transhumanism, we have a future that is not just secured, but a future that is going to be amazing to walk into. So that's my last word. Think the future and think transhumanism. Think transhumanism and think transhuman coin. Thank you.
But has that message resonated well? Does that, because sometimes people say transhumanism is scary and they would rather not bring it up. But what's your experience in mentioning transhumanism? Is it being well received or not?
Well, because of the religiosity of Africa, it's a bit scary to people. And this is what the Transhuman Coin is doing. Now, with more African holders, I mean, we have over 1,800 African holders out of the 2,000 and plus 2,600 or thereabouts holders. You know, what they are doing is they first say, I just bought the Transhuman Coin. Oh, great, I'm a transhumanist. Then they begin to assimilate and adopt the ideology of human enhancement through science and technology. And it's spreading like wildfire because of the economic incentive that the Transhuman Coin provides. So, you know, once they receive that economic incentive, it becomes more endearing to them, you know, and that's what we're seeing with the project. So before now, actually, I used to just be a lonely voice. You know, I mean, a lonely voice in transhumanism. I would say this: no, you are not born again, or you backslided from the Christian faith, or something like that. You know, then, but slowly they're gonna realize that, you know, we're just questioning the human limitation. Is this all there is to life? Is this all there is to humans? Is there something more that we can achieve with our bodies, our minds, you know, and our consciousness, you know? And the ideology, I'm telling you right now, in Africa, it's spreading because of the Transhuman Coin project. And that's the major significance, is to spread the ideology using the most sensitive aspect of the African reality, which is economic, you know, reality here. And that combination, that strategy has worked like fire. It's working, you know. So yeah, it's now being received, but before now, it wasn't, you know, but it's gradually, you know, being adopted into the thought pattern in Africa.
Thank you, Charles. Peter, what are your concluding remarks? And maybe what do you think will be the case in about a year's time if we were to have this conversation in a year's time? What would be different then from what we're having now?
Yeah, and Charles Elise said it so well. I think, it's such a great honor to have this forum and getting the feedback from the community, David. And yet, I think, years' time, we'll have more and more of the community leaders, part of the management team, to guide this project, because it is a project for transhumanism as a movement, and we want to accelerate the movement. So yeah, please reach out to us through that admin email that we've listed in the chat to come on board and join the team. I think we'll definitely need that scientific advisory board. Definitely find a way to make that mechanism that's equitable, and also make sure we don't have the fallings of previous charity tokens like it's mentioned in the group. We want to make sure we get this right, because it's transhumanism, it's part of our lives. So it's going to be, for me, I'm going to be holding this coin for life. And it's about how do we get other people to hold that as well.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for the questions, the tough questions, especially all the feedback. So I've been taking notes. I haven't been talking as much as Charles and Peter today, but I'm just thinking about all the feedback and how we can learn from it and apply it to THC. So thank you.
That's excellent. I've got a copy of the YouTube chat. I've got a copy of the Q&A, including the questions that we didn't get around to, and the text chat, which I will forward to all three of you. Feel free to look at as much of it catches your eyes. And I agree very much with what you've said, Elise. We are going to be successful to the extent that we can learn from the wider community. This is not a competition. We're not trying to be better than the other coins. We're trying to forge the right collaborative links with these other projects in a distinctive way that will add real value that can be shared. And so I will share that. So I want to thank the three of you for taking the time to get involved. And you've heard the links. I will put the links clearly in the description of this video and put them online. And I'm now going to close down the recording and close down the media channels, but I'll keep the Zoom running. It's now 1/2 the hour according to my watch. At 37 minutes past the hour, I will convert everybody who's still here into panelists, and we can have a little bit more of an informal chat. So thanks to everybody. Thank you.